The drop pod shuddered violently as it cut through the turbulent atmosphere of Kepler 4422b, its reinforced hull groaning under the strain of atmospheric entry. Inside the cramped compartment, Nathan Reed maintained his composure with practiced ease, his augmented neural implants automatically adjusting to compensate for the pod's erratic movements. Across from him, secured in the opposing harness, sat Liriana, a Shindari warrior whose sunset orange skin seemed to glow in the pod's dim interior lights, her silver hair flowing like liquid mercury despite the restraints. The mission briefing had been clear: a joint operation between Earth's special forces and the Shindari Imperium to investigate strange energy readings detected in this sector. What the briefing hadn't mentioned was how the proximity to his alien partner would affect him. Nathan found himself stealing glances at her exotic features, the way her amber eyes reflected the console's holographic displays, the graceful efficiency with which she checked her equipment despite the violent shaking. "First time working with a human?" Liriana asked, her voice carrying an otherworldly melody that seemed to resonate directly in his enhanced auditory cortex. Her English was flawless, though tinged with an accent that suggested her native tongue had entirely different linguistic structures. "No," Nathan replied curtly, checking his rifle's power cell for the third time. "You?" A smile played at the corners of her lips. "You could say that. Though I must admit I've heard interesting things about human warriors. Your people's reputation for unpredictability precedes you. We prefer to call it adaptability." She tilted her head, studying him with those unnerving amber eyes. "Tell me, Nathan Reed, what do you know of Shindari customs?" Nathan's neural implants rapidly accessed his cultural database. "Your people value honor above individual desire. Marriage contracts are considered sacred bonds that link souls across lifetimes. And," he paused, accessing deeper files, "true names carry significant power in your society." Liriana's eyes widened slightly, a reaction he caught despite her attempt to hide it. "Impressive. Most humans know only superficial facts about us. I make it a point to understand my allies." "Allies?" She repeated the word as if tasting it. "Yes, I suppose we are that now." The pod systems announced their impending arrival with a series of mechanical chimes. "Tell you what, Nathan Reed, would you like to play a game while we wait?" Nathan's instincts, honed by years of combat, told him to decline. Games during missions were distractions. But something in her tone, a challenge masked as playfulness, intrigued him. "What kind of game?" Liriana's grin widened, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be entirely human. "I'll make you a deal. If you can guess my true name before we complete this mission, I'll marry you according to Shindari custom." Nathan's enhanced processing capabilities analyzed the proposal instantly. Custom dictated that Shindari marriages required consent from both parties, and their bonding rituals were said to create genuine psychic links between partners. The offer was clearly meant as a jest. The odds of guessing a Shindari true name were astronomical. "You're joking." "Am I?" Her eyes held a mischievous glint, afraid to accept the challenge. Before Nathan could respond, the pod's landing sequence initiated with a bone-jarring impact. Emergency klaxons wailed as enemy fire immediately began peppering their landing zone. Through the viewports, Nathan caught glimpses of Draxian attack craft already moving to intercept them. "Looks like our game will have to wait," Liriana said, her hand moving to her weapon harnesses with fluid grace. "Unless you're ready to die guessing." Nathan's tactical implants flooded his consciousness with battlefield data as he prepped his gear. "I never back down from a challenge." They burst from the pod into a chaos of laser fire and explosions. The Draxian forces had been expecting them. Somehow their covert insertion had been compromised. Nathan's augmented reflexes kicked into overdrive as he rolled behind cover his rifle, already acquiring targets. Beside him, Liriana moved with an almost supernatural grace, her twin energy blades crackling to life in her hands. For 30 minutes they fought back-to-back against overwhelming odds. Nathan found himself admiring her combat prowess. Every movement was calculated, precise, deadly. There was something almost dance-like about how she fought, as if each strike followed some ancient rhythm only she could hear. During a brief lull in the fighting, as they huddled behind an overturned vehicle, Nathan made his first guess. Zara. Liriana raised an eyebrow. No, and that was far too simple. True names have meaning beyond human comprehension. Then give me a hint. Hints are not part of the game, Nathan Reed. She checked her weapons, counting remaining charges. Though I will say this, to know a Shindari's true name, one must understand the essence of who they are. The fighting resumed with renewed intensity. Wave after wave of Draxian soldiers advanced on their position, supported by heavy combat vehicles. Nathan found himself relying increasingly on Liriana's abilities. She seemed to anticipate enemy movements with uncanny accuracy, directing his fire to maximum effect. It was during the third assault that Nathan noticed something odd. Whenever Liriana fought with particular intensity, her movements synchronized with a specific harmonic frequency, a sound just at the edge of his enhanced hearing. His neural implants, designed to process and translate alien languages, began to dissect these harmonics. Shathara, he ventured during another brief respite. This time, Liriana's eyes actually widened. How did you... No, still incorrect, but closer than I expected. As the day wore on and their situation grew more desperate, Nathan found himself studying Liriana with increasing intensity. The way she touched certain spots on her weapons, always in a specific pattern, the melodic humming she did when concentrating, the slight echo in her voice when she spoke her own language. His implants worked overtime, cross-referencing cultural databases, vocal patterns, and behavioral markers. There was something about the rhythm of her movements, something that spoke to a deeper aspect of her nature. They were down to their last power cells when Nathan had a breakthrough. As Liriana fought, he noticed she fought in sets of 7 strikes, 7 steps, 7 breaths. 7 was significant in Shindari culture, representing the 7 virtues of the warrior path. But more than that, her movements traced patterns that his enhanced pattern recognition finally identified as corresponding to star charts. Veltara Simnya, Nathan said softly during a moment when they found themselves trapped in a collapsed bunker, enemy forces regrouping outside. Liriana froze completely, her amber eyes turning to him with an expression of absolute shock. What did you just say? Nathan's implants had provided the meaning, along with the pronunciation, she who walks between starlight and shadow, bringing dawn to the lost worlds. How? She whispered, her composure cracking for the first time since he'd met her. No human should be able to. The harmonics alone require neural pathways that your species doesn't naturally possess. I've been enhanced, Nathan explained, turning up his sleeve to reveal the intricate neural interface ports along his arm. Military-grade artificial telepathy and linguistic processing implants. The surgery was extensive. Liriana stared at the ports, then at his face, her expression cycling through shock, disbelief, and something else, something that might have been wonder. You really spoke my name, she said, her voice barely audible above the distant sounds of the enemy forces positioning themselves. Do you understand what this means? In my culture, to know one's true name is to know their soul. It creates a bond that... An explosion rocked their shelter, cutting off her words. Draxian soldiers were preparing to breach their position. Nathan could see the determination in Liriana's eyes shift to something else, resignation perhaps. I need to tell you something, she said, urgently grabbing his arm. If we don't survive this, you should know the bond created by speaking a true name isn't symbolic. It's literal. Already I can feel the connection forming between us. Nathan felt it too, a strange tingling at the edge of his consciousness, as if someone had opened a door in his mind that had always been closed. What kind of connection? We call it the sacred joining. Our thoughts, emotions, even life forces become linked. It's why true names are so carefully guarded. To marry in the Shindari way is to literally become part of each other. The shelter's entrance exploded inward. As Draxian soldiers poured through the breach, Nathan and Liriana moved as one not just tactically, but with an eerie synchronization that suggested their newfound bond was already affecting them. Fighting side by side, they began to push back against overwhelming odds. Nathan found himself anticipating Liriana's moves before she made them, while she seemed to know exactly when he needed covering fire or when to move to avoid his shots. But it was more than tactical coordination. Nathan could feel something flowing between them, strength. When one faltered, steadiness, when the other wavered. It was as if they had become two parts of a single fighting force. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Wave after wave of Draxian forces fell to their combined assault. But Nathan knew they couldn't keep this up indefinitely. Their ammunition was running low, their physical endurance pushed to its limits. It was then that Liriana did something unexpected. As another group of Draxians prepared to overrun their position, she grabbed Nathan's face with both hands and pressed her forehead against his. The full joining, she said, her eyes glowing with an inner light Nathan had never seen before. If we're going to die here, let us die as one. Nathan felt a rush of everything. Memories that weren't his own flooded his consciousness, a golden-skied world where twin suns set over crystal spires. The taste of Shindari food, the feeling of different gravity, the sensation of scales shifting under skin. But more than memories, he felt emotions, Liriana's deep loneliness among her own people, her secret fascination with humans, her growing affection for him despite the impossibility of their situation. And through their bond, Liriana experienced Nathan's memories as well. The harsh training that had forged him into a weapon, the modifications that had cost him parts of his humanity, his own isolation among his fellow soldiers. The psychic resonance that built between them manifested physically as well. The air around them began to shimmer with energy, a phenomenon that the approaching Draxians clearly hadn't expected. Nathan felt power flowing through him that had nothing to do with his technological enhancements. Together they unleashed something that was part science, part magic, part pure willpower. The enemy forces found themselves facing not just two warriors, but a single entity with 4 Gi arms and the combined tactical knowledge of 2 military traditions. When the battle finally ended, when the last Draxian soldier fell, and silence settled over the devastated landscape, Nathan and Liriana found themselves still kneeling face to face, their foreheads still touching. Slowly they pulled apart, and Nathan saw his own shock reflected in Liriana's amber eyes. "What have we done?" she whispered. Nathan could feel it. The bond between them was no longer building. It was complete. Their minds remained separate entities, but there was now a channel between them that would never close. Through it, he could sense her emotions, her thoughts, when she let them flow freely. "I can feel you," he said wonderfully, "in my mind, but also deeper than that." "The sacred joining is irreversible," Liriana said softly, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "We are bound now, Nathan Reed, souls intertwined, and I don't even know if you want this." Nathan reached up to touch her face, wiping away a tear with his thumb. Through their bond, he could feel her fear, not of the joining itself, but of the possibility that she had trapped him in something he never wanted. "I chose to say your name," he said gently, "and you chose to complete the bond. We made this decision together." "But the implications," she began. "We'll figure them out." Nathan stood, offering her his hand. "First, we need to complete the mission." The energy readings they had been sent to investigate turned out to be emanating from an ancient Shindari artifact, a relic that had been drawing the Draxians to this world. As they secured the device, Nathan found himself working with Liriana with unprecedented efficiency. Their bond allowed them to coordinate without words, to share knowledge instantaneously. But it was during the extraction, as they waited for pickup in the drop pod, that the full reality of their situation began to sink in. "My people will view this as a scandal," Liriana said quietly, staring out at the alien sunset. "A Shindari warrior bound to a human, it violates centuries of tradition. And the military brass back on Earth won't be thrilled either, Nathan replied. Soldiers aren't supposed to form attachments. Through their bond, each could feel the other's uncertainty, the weight of what they had done. But underneath that uncertainty was something else, a warmth, a rightness that neither could deny. Do you regret it? Liriana asked. Nathan considered the question seriously. Through their bond, she would know if he lied. No, he said finally. I should. It complicates everything. But no, I don't regret it. Relief flooded through their connection from Liriana's side. I was afraid you would feel trapped. The only thing that would trap me, Nathan said, meeting her eyes, would be being without you now. The pickup ship arrived 3 hours later. As they prepared to board, knowing they would soon be separated, sent to debriefings with their respective commands, Nathan caught Liriana's hand. This won't be the end, he said, feeling the promise resonate through their bond. The Shindari Council will try to void the bond, Liriana warned. They'll claim it was formed under duress, that it violates the sacred traditions. Then we'll change their minds, both our people's minds. Through their bond, Nathan felt her hope flare bright. It was a naive hope, perhaps, but it was real. And that hope became his own. The journey back to the fleet was awkward. Both human and Shindari personnel aboard the rescue ship clearly sensed something had changed between Nathan and Liriana, though none could identify what. The two tried to maintain professional distance, but their synchronized movements and the way they seemed to anticipate each other's needs gave them away. Commander Sarah Walsh, Nathan's direct superior, cornered him in the ship's armory. What happened down there, read you, and the Shindari operative are acting differently. Nathan met her gaze steadily. We completed the mission successfully and formed an effective partnership. That's not what I'm seeing. There's something in the way you two interact. It's subtle, but I've been doing this long enough to recognize. She stopped mid-sentence as Nathan suddenly turned toward the door. Liriana appeared moments later, claiming she needed to check on her equipment. But Nathan could feel through their bond that she had sensed his distress and come to offer support. Commander Walsh's eyes narrowed as she observed their silent communication, the way they seemed to know what the other was thinking without words. The rest of the journey passed in a blur of reports and preparations. Nathan and Liriana were kept busy with separate debriefings, but even when apart, they could feel each other across the ship. It was both comforting and terrifying. When they finally docked at the joint space station that served as headquarters for the Human Shindari Alliance, Nathan couldn't suppress a feeling of dread. He knew what was coming. Dr. Sarah Voss, the lead xenopsychologist assigned to human-alien interactions, was waiting for them on the dock with a full team of specialists. Mr. Reed Warrior Liriana, she greeted them formally. Command has requested immediate psychological evaluation following your mission. There have been observations regarding your partnership that require investigation. Nathan and Liriana exchanged a glance. Through their bond, he felt her resignation. She had expected this. The evaluations were extensive and invasive. Hours of psychological testing, neural scans, and interrogation. Nathan could feel Liriana enduring similar procedures in another part of the facility, their bond providing mutual strength even when separated. It was Dr. Voss who finally revealed what they had discovered. The neural patterns we're detecting are unprecedented, she explained to Nathan as holographic brain scans rotated above her desk. There's clear evidence of a psychic link between you and the Shindari operative. The question is whether this represents a security breach or a breakthrough. It represents a personal choice, Nathan said firmly. A choice that has implications far beyond the personal. Dr. Voss replied, if this bond can be replicated, if it's a natural result of the linguistic modifications you underwent, it could change the nature of human-alien relations forever. Nathan felt a chill run down his spine. Through their bond, he sensed that Liriana was hearing similar things from the Shindari doctors. Over the following days, Nathan and Liriana found themselves the subjects of intense study. Scientists from both species examined every aspect of their bond, trying to understand how it had formed and whether it could be undone. The political implications were staggering. Conservative factions in both governments saw the bond as a dangerous precedent if humans and Shindari could truly merge minds. What did that mean for species sovereignty? Progressive voices hailed it as the next step in interspecies cooperation. But for Nathan and Liriana, locked in the center of this political storm, the reality was simpler and more complex than any of the debates surrounding them. They were learning to live with minds that were no longer entirely their own. Not even their own. The bond allowed them to share thoughts and emotions, but it also meant they could no longer keep secrets from each other. Nathan experienced Liriana's homesickness as his own, while she felt his buried trauma from the neural modifications that had made their connection possible. It was during one of their supervised interaction sessions, carefully monitored meetings allowed by the research teams, that they finally had a chance to talk honestly about their situation. "I never asked you to speak my name," Liriana said, though her tone held no accusation. "I thought it was impossible for a human to do so. And I never thought I'd be willing to bond my soul to someone I'd known for less than a day," Nathan replied. "But here we are." Through their connection, he felt her amusement. "My grandmother would say that souls recognize each other regardless of time or species." "What do you say?" Liriana was quiet for a long moment. "I say that what's done is done, and that despite everything, I wouldn't change it." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a joint delegation, high-ranking officials from both the Human Coalition and the Shindari Imperium. Nathan's heart sank as he recognized Admiral Chen among the humans and Elder Tavara among the Shindari. "We need to discuss your futures," Admiral Chen announced without preamble. "This situation you've created has implications none of us anticipated." Elder Tavara's mental tendrils, visible as faint silver wisps in certain lights, writhed with what Nathan had learned to recognize as agitation. The sacred bond has been twisted to an abomination. A joining between species is forbidden by our oldest laws. "On the contrary," Admiral Chen interjected, though his expression remained stern. "Our scientists believe this represents an unprecedented opportunity. If this bond can be studied replicated, we could create perfect human-alien teams. Communication barriers would become obsolete." Nathan felt Liriana's fury spike through their bond. "We are not experiments," she said firmly, her voice carrying harmonics that made the universal translators struggle. "We are people who have undergone a sacred marriage rite. You cannot simply study us like laboratory specimens." "The bond must be severed," Elder Tavara declared. "It violates the fundamental principles of species purity that have guided both our peoples for millennia." "Can it be severed?" Admiral Chen asked, turning to the assembled scientists. Dr. Voss cleared her throat. "Our preliminary studies suggest that breaking the bond would likely result in severe psychological trauma for both subjects. It's able that..." "Subjects?" Nathan interrupted, his own anger rising. "We're soldiers who completed a successful mission. This bond didn't compromise our effectiveness. If anything, it enhanced it." The debate raged for hours. Politicians argued precedent and policy, while scientists discussed neural pathways and psychic resonance patterns. Through it all, Nathan and Liriana sat in the center of the storm, feeling each other's emotions, sharing strength when one grew weak. Finally, Elder Tavara posed the question that cut to the heart of the matter. "Do you wish this bond to continue?" Nathan and Liriana looked at each other. Through their connection, they didn't need words to communicate. The fear was there, the uncertainty about what their future held. But underneath that was something stronger. Love strange and new and transcendent of species. "Yes," they said in unison, their voices harmonizing in a way that made several of the Shindari present step backward in shock. Elder Tavara's tendrils writhed more violently. "Then you have chosen to live as outcasts from both our peoples." Admiral Chen held up a hand. Not necessarily. Perhaps there's a third option. What the Admiral proposed was unprecedented: the formation of a new branch of the Alliance military integrated units, where humans and Shindari could work in perfect coordination. Nathan and Liriana would be the first team serving as both proof of concept and test subjects for this radical new form of cooperation. The proposal was met with skepticism from both sides, but the success of Nathan and Liriana's mission could not be denied. Their bond had enabled them to defeat Draxian forces that should have overwhelmed them, to work with a level of coordination that traditional military doctrine insisted was impossible. Over the following weeks, as politicians debated and scientists studied, Nathan and Liriana began to build a life together. They were assigned shared quarters officially, so their bond could be monitored, but in practice giving them space to learn how to exist as two individuals who were also part of something larger. The learning curve was steep. They had to navigate not just the complexity of their mental connection, but also the physical realities of being different species. Liriana's dietary requirements were different from Nathan's. Her sleep cycle didn't match his. Her skin could tolerate temperature ranges that would kill him. But they adapted. Nathan learned to appreciate Shindari cuisine, while Liriana developed a fondness for human coffee. They synchronized their sleep schedules and found ways to accommodate their different environmental needs. More importantly, they learned to manage their mental connection. With practice, they discovered how to share thoughts intentionally. Rather than having their minds constantly open to each other, they learned to respect each other's mental privacy while maintaining the deep emotional connection that had formed between them. The first test of their new unit came sooner than expected. A Draxian incursion in the outer sectors required immediate response, and the Joint Command decided to deploy Nathan and Liriana as the advance team for a new integrated force. Working together again, in combat, they discovered that their bond had continued to develop. Where before they had fought with perfect coordination, now they seemed to anticipate threats before they appeared to know enemy positions without reconnaissance. The mission was a complete success. Not only did they neutralize the Draxian threat, but they did so with minimal casualties and obtained valuable intelligence about enemy movements. Word of their success spread quickly through both fleets. Suddenly, the experimental program Nathan and Liriana represented didn't seem so radical. Applications for the integrated units began pouring in from both humans and Shindari. But success brought its own challenges. Nathan and Liriana found themselves the center of media attention from both species. They were held up as examples by some, condemned as abominations by others. The pressure became particularly intense when they announced their intention to formalize their union through both human and Shindari ceremonies. It's symbolic as much as personal. Liriana explained to the Joint Council reviewing their request. Our bond already exists. These ceremonies simply acknowledge that existence within the frameworks of both our cultures. Elder Tavara remained opposed, but many in the Shindari delegation had begun to view the bonded pair differently. Their consistent success in combat had earned respect even among the most traditional members of both species. The ceremonies would be modified, admitted Elder Quenth Tavara II. Neither of our traditional rites fully applies to a cross-species union. Admiral Chen nodded slowly. And the human military would need to adjust regulations regarding married couples serving together, but given the nature of your bond, Nathan felt Liriana's hope flutter through their connection. The possibility of having their union officially recognized seemed almost too good to be true. The negotiations were complex and sometimes heated. Religious leaders from both species argued over which ceremonies could be adapted, which traditions could be modified. Military officials debated the implications of officially sanctioning what many still viewed as an experimental program. In the end, it was the practical reality of Nathan and Liriana's continued success that won the day. Their unit's effectiveness rate exceeded all projections. Other bonded pairs formed through careful psychological matching and neural modification showed similar results. The ceremonies, when they finally took place, were unlike anything either species had seen before. The human portion included traditional elements, vows, rings, the blessing of family and comrades. The Shindari portion involved complex harmonics, the intertwining of life energies, and the formal recognition of the soul bond. But the most powerful moment came when Nathan and Liriana performed a ritual of their own creation, a blending of human and Shindari traditions that symbolized their unique union. As they spoke vows in both languages, their bond resonated with such intensity that every sensitive in attendance felt it. Standing before their friends, families, and comrades from both species, Nathan and Liriana made promises that transcended language and culture. "Through your eyes, I see new worlds." Nathan said, his words carrying harmonics that his enhanced vocal cords could now produce. "Through your heart, I understand that love knows no boundaries of species or star. In your mind, I find my home." Liriana replied, her English perfect but tinged with the melody of her native tongue. "In your soul, I discover that two can become one without losing what makes them unique." They concluded with words they had composed together, spoken in perfect synchronization. "We are no longer human or Shindari, but something new. We are the bridge between peoples, the proof that love conquers all division. Where we go together. What we face as one." The reception that followed was a chaotic blend of human and Shindari customs. Humans danced to music that incorporated Shindari harmonic principles, while Shindari dignitaries learned to appreciate human champagne. For Nathan and Liriana, moving through the celebration felt like a waking dream. Their bond hummed with contentment, with the joy of having their love officially recognized by both their peoples. But even as they celebrated, both knew that challenges lay ahead. The Draxian threat continued to grow. The integration of bonded units into regular military operations would face resistance. Their own relationship would need to adapt as they took on new responsibilities as leaders in this experimental program. As the evening wore on and the festivities continued, Nathan and Liriana found themselves on an observation deck, looking out at the stars that had brought them together. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't guessed your name?" Nathan asked. Through their bond, Liriana shared a complex emotional response. Amusement, sadness, and deep contentment all mixed together. "I think our souls would have found each other anyway," she said finally. The name was just the key to unlock what was always meant to be. Nathan pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him, despite their different physiologies. "The scientists say our bond is getting stronger, that eventually we might not need verbal communication at all. Does that frighten you?" Nathan considered the question seriously. "Sometimes. Losing my individuality. It's not something I ever thought I'd risk. And yet here we are." "Here we are," he agreed. "And I wouldn't change it for anything." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. Ships from both their peoples moved in formation beyond the station's windows, a visible reminder of the alliance their love had come to symbolize. "The next mission assignments are coming in tomorrow," Liriana mentioned casually, though Nathan felt the excitement underneath her calm exterior. 3 more bonded pairs ready for deployment," he confirmed, "and a dozen more in training." "We did this," Liriana said wonderingly. "By answering an impossible question and accepting its consequences, we changed everything." Nathan turned to face her, fully cupping her face in his hands. Through their bond, he let her feel the full depth of his love, his gratitude for the impossible challenge that had brought them together. "No more jokes about guessing names," he said with a smile. Liriana laughed, the sound musical in the way that always made his enhanced hearing resonate. "I don't know. It worked out rather well the first time." As if in response to their happiness, the station's communication system crackled to life. "All personnel to duty stations. We have incoming vessels. Draxian configuration approaching at combat speed." Nathan and Liriana looked at each other, their bond instantly shifting from contentment to shared determination. This was what they had trained for, what their union had prepared them to face. Together, Liriana asked, though she already knew the answer. Always, Nathan replied. They ran toward their quarters to gear up, their movements perfectly synchronized. As they moved, Nathan reflected on the journey that had brought them here, from that first challenge in a drop pod to this moment, running hand in hand toward whatever danger awaited. His enhanced hearing picked up the subtle harmonics in Liriana's breathing that indicated battle readiness. Her nostrils flared as she scented his changing brain chemistry. Two different species, enhanced and modified, but thinking as one. They reached their quarters and began the familiar ritual of combat preparation. Body armor check. Weapons check. Neural link to tactical systems check. But now they had an additional step, the intentional opening of their bond to its fullest extent, allowing them to fight not just as partners, but as a single entity with 4 arms and 2 brains. Nathan, Liriana said as they prepared to leave their quarters. Through their bond, he felt the complex mix of emotions she was experiencing. Love, certainly, but also determination, fear, and underneath it all, a deep sense of rightness about what they had become. I know, he said, understanding her unspoken thoughts. Whatever happens, we face it together. They sealed their helmets and headed for the deployment bay, where other bonded pairs were already assembling. Watching them, Nathan felt a surge of pride. These were the couples they had inspired, humans and Shindari, who had chosen to undergo the bonding process to risk everything for the chance at this perfect unity. As they approached their designated drop pod, a newer model designed specifically for bonded pairs with linked control systems and shared tactical displays, Nathan caught sight of their reflections in the viewport. Human and Shindari, different in every physical way, but moving in perfect harmony. The mission briefing was swift and efficient. Draxian forces had established a foothold on a contested planet. Intelligence suggested they were testing new weapons that could disrupt psychic bonds, a direct threat to the integrated units. Primary objective is intelligence gathering, the mission commander explained. But be aware these new weapons could be targeted specifically at you. Nathan felt a flicker of concern through his bond with Liriana, quickly suppressed by her iron determination. They had faced death together before. This was just another challenge. As their pod launched from the station, hurtling toward the planet's surface, Nathan reached for Liriana's hand. Their gloved fingers intertwined, and through their touch, their bond resonated with shared purpose. Ready to show them what a bonded pair can do? He asked. Her amber eyes glowed behind her helmet's faceplate. Always ready, my husband. The word husband still sent a thrill through their connection. They were bonded in ways deeper than any marriage their separate species had previously known, yet these simple human and Shindari terms of endearment carried special meaning for them. The pod shuddered as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Below them lay an unknown battlefield, enemy forces with weapons specifically designed to threaten what they had become. But Nathan felt no fear. Through their bond, Liriana's strength flowed into him, just as his determination flowed into her. They were no longer just Nathan Reed and Liriana of the Sunrise Clan. They were something new, the first of a new kind of warrior, a living bridge between species, proof that love could transcend any boundary. As the pod hurtled toward landfall, Nathan squeezed Liriana's hand and felt her squeeze back. Whatever waited for them planet-side, they would face it together. And together, they were unstoppable. The future of both their peoples might rest on what they accomplished in the coming hours. But for Nathan and Liriana, that future had already been decided the moment an impossible challenge had been accepted and answered. They were bonded. They were one. And nothing, not the Draxians, not the traditionalists in both their societies, not even weapons designed to break psychic bonds, could change that now. The drop pod struck the planet's surface with ground-shaking force. As the hatches blew open and Nathan and Liriana emerged into battle, they moved as one entity with a single purpose: to prove that love truly could conquer all.